Welcome back, all my 40k fanatics out there, and it's time to make the video for the cronies. The Necron Codex datasheets has dropped. We have them. We know how our army plays, and as of this morning now, we know what our army costs. So I was trying to get a couple videos out earlier and was started working on this project and ran into some really bad luck that I'm sure any content creator can relate to. It was one of the nights where the camera falls over, the camera's running out of power, you suddenly discover you've been recording for an hour and your microphone isn't on, and you just go, you know what? Tonight's not my night. Took a step back, came back to it, and here we are. Time to talk about some Necrons. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do and turn on the bell for notifications to get more reminders as I release the rest of the videos in this series. Yes, the series. I'm going to break down the data sheets into 4 videos, one covering the basis of the army, one covering the infantry, one covering the characters, and one covering the vehicles. And with all those videos, I'm going to talk very fluently with the rest of the data sheet. So please take a second and scan over and look over some of this stuff. Feel free to pause the video and read some of this stuff on your own as you will and see kind of what I'm talking about. If you need to scan over some of the units I'm talking about, that I recommend having your data sheets ready to cover some of the stuff I'm going to talk about here. On top of that, we are also going to talk about some of the points with it now as well, since we have those available. So we get to kind of review and cover, well, okay, this is good, but this is how much it costs. Or, this is decent, but oh my gosh, this is how much this costs. So we got a lot of cool stuff that we can talk about with this. I'm really excited to start going into this. So let's jump into this, guys. As always, like, share, subscribe, comment down below if I'm right on a rule, if I'm off, if you see the same thing I do, or maybe there's a different direction I've seen. I guarantee if I read a rule one way and this is how I believe it, there's probably someone else out there who thought the same thing. Let's get everybody back on the same page with this army. So, Necrons. We are Reanimation Protocol. That's what we've always been. Except for in the beginning when it was we will be back. Then it became Reanimation Protocol, and that's what it's been since. So, with Reanimation Protocol, in the last edition, was as you got hit, you reanimated to bring guys back. Now it has been condensed. And it's kind of funny now that once we originally saw this, we're like, wow, this is really bad. Now with all the buffs and abilities you can use, the Canoptic Reanimator, Resurrection Orbs, you're able to do this during your command phase, your opponent's command phase, when you get shot. There are so many times you could do Reanimation Protocol that we're going to be getting guys back. I feel like with this entire army, I'm very happy with it. I feel like with this whole entire army, somebody actually sat down and spent some time to try to make a good undead reanimating force of undead skeletons out of this army. And while some abilities may be too expensive for what they actually do, they're at least functioning. And everything in this book looks like it actually functions and functions well for the most part. So that's basically, those are my feelings on the entirety of this entire data sheets and what we're looking at. And I am super excited to play some of these things, especially getting some models off the shelf that I've missed. Lich Guard. We should hear a lot about those guys. But okay, enough. Let's talk about the army. Let's get to the beginning of this. Reanimation Protocol. So, Reanimation Protocol is if this unit contains one or more models with fewer than its starting number of wounds remaining, select one of those models. That model regains 1 lost wound. If that model in this unit has their starting strength number, let's try and do this the easier way. Basically, you roll a d3, and then for whatever you get, let's say you get a 2, you start to add those wounds back to your squad. The first thing you do is check to see if there is any units that are damaged. If so, they heal for that 1 wound. If you have no damaged units, but you are below your starting strength, then you put a model back with 1 wound remaining. You follow this process exactly this way for each 1 pip on a D3. So with Lich Guard that are 2 wound models, if you have a damaged Lich Guard in the unit and 1 dead, and you roll a 2, the first pip heals the Lich Guard to full. The second pip would give you the resurrected model. If you are at full health, but you are down 1 model, and you roll that same 2, your first pip would resurrect the model. Then it goes back through the cycle, starts at the beginning, and looks and sees and has to heal that model first. So that's how the reanimation protocol works for every unit in this army. Obviously, units like Necron warriors that only have 1 wound, each of those pips is just going to resurrect the guy. And the Necron warriors also can resurrect more than other units because warriors. Moving on to command protocols. So our command protocols have changed. Now command protocol is a very simple, very small rule. Like literally here's the entire page and it's literally right here for 2 sentences. It's I get it. Okay. You kept it separated. Thank you, Gabe's Workshop. The Offspring appreciates you, but it's literally not even, I mean, that's a stratagem size card from 9th edition. All it is if you have a character model leading a unit, you get +1 to hit. As small and simple as that rule is, that is one of the most thematic things that they could do with the Necrons. Necrons, traditionally, the nobles, the overlords, the lords, the higher ranking ones, are the only ones that during the transfer actually still kept their personalities and their minds about them. That's why they're able to lead all of the more autonomous Necron warriors that they kind of sold their soul for immortality in a way, and who they are and their spirit and everything. And they can't really think or function on their own. So this actually kind of reflects that. And it's a little, most people know about it, but kind of gets forgotten about that. It's like, yeah, you know what? That fits the Necron. So hilarious page. Great rule, honestly. And really going to be important for a lot of units, especially when you start looking at things and you go, oh, that's a good profile, but put a character within your +1 to hit. Oh, so Lich Guard hit on 2-ups. Again, we'll be talking about Lich Guard. I'm really looking forward to those guys. All right. Now our command protocols, at least the namesake of them, is still around in the form of our 6 stratagems. First things first, all of our stratagems cost 1 command point. This means that we definitely need a way to be able to just keep a command point going. I don't think discarding a card and just gaining 1 command point is going to be enough. I think we need something small. And we're going to cover some of the options here, and I want to see which one is. I think Emotech's might be a little too much for the easy 1 command point. He might be a little too much in that column. But what is the other ways that we can try and just get that extra command point out of something so that we can use these stratagems? Because there's some good ones. There's definitely some good ones. All right. For starters, Protocol of the Eternal Guardian. Protocol of the Eternal Guardian can be used in any phase. And it is used when a Necron character dies. And any Necron player probably knows that from this point, what this now does. This lets you resurrect your character, except you don't have to roll for it. He just comes back up. Just stands right back up and gets back to work. Now, and the other cool thing is 1 Necron infantry character. This means any infantry character, not just nobles and stuff like that, any one of them. And that matters for things like Hexmark Destroyer. Probably heard a little bit about him being good. We'll talk about him. He's pretty beastly now. Moving on to the second one, we got Protocol of the Hungry Void. All right, so Protocol of the Hungry Void was the combat one in the previous, the Novak one. I love this one. You use it in the fight phase, and here we're going to see a trend with a lot of these stratagems, starting with this one. So, first thing you do is you use it in the fight phase. You use it on a Necron unit that has not been selected to fight yet. That Necron unit gets +1 strength, and if they are led by a Necron character, any Necron character, just if a Necron character is leading the unit, they also get +1 to their AP on their melee weapons. Things like, Necron warriors, Lich Guard. Yes, I said Necron warriors. I'm thinking bulk 20 attacks. If you have a 20 man, you just need to go through something. A lot of units, score packs, everything. Boom, 1 command point, +1 strength, +1 AP. Tears through. Like there's going to be, how do you take care of a vehicle? How do you hit a vehicle? Okay, here are some potential options for some of these things to be able to get that extra strength, to be able to push that damage through, and other ways with lethal hits. But here, that's a really strong strat. That's a really strong strat, and there's other good scenarios for it as well too, to help make sure that you're getting through infantry and just pushing through something in combat. One command point, really good strat. Very now, are you going to use this every game? That depends. If you're playing a shooting force, you may not use this every game, but this might be something you use to bail you out of a situation. If you're not using a shooting force and you're just using a standard, like you're using that combat army, yeah, you're going to be using this 5 out of 5 turns, maybe even more. Moving on to the next one, Protocol of the Conquering Tyrant. This one is used in your shooting phase. Once again, on a unit that you have that you've not selected to shoot yet. And what this does is, until the end of the phase, each time an attack is made with that model, if it is within half range, you can re-roll the wounds. If it is led by a character, then you can ignore the half range modifier. So re-roll wounds on a unit. If they're within half range, put a character in there, ignore the half range. Just one command point, re-roll all wounds. I mean, is there anything bad you can say about that? I mean, there's definitely always opportunity. And if you're a gunline army and you have a lot of guns, here you go. You're going to be using that a lot. Same as the fight. So whichever, if you go very, if you go heavy combat, heavy shooting, you have a strat to support you. That's very cheap and very easy. If you're mid in between, you have 2 good strats that whichever way you need to be more aggressive, whether it's shooting or whether it's combat, you have things that can really help you increase the efficiency for very cheap. Protocol of the Undying Legion. So Protocol of the Undying Legion is used in your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase just after an enemy unit has resolved an attack. Here we go. Now we're going back to some old reanimation protocol tricks here. One Necron unit from your army that has had 1 or more of its models destroyed as a result of an attack, and then the effect is that you activate it, reanimation protocol, and reanimates D3. When doing so, if a Necron character is leading the unit, you reanimate D3 plus 1 instead. So D3 plus 1 with a character in there. Beautiful. Now the question is that I'm still wondering too into it is, the Necron warriors say specifically in their strat, this unit resurrects D6 instead of resurrecting D3. This one says the reanimation protocol reanimates and you reanimate D3. So it's kind of a weird place because it's like the rule itself is saying do this instead of doing D3, and here is D3. I feel like the intent event, like right now, that's kind of questionable because rules as written, that tells you to ignore the D3 and roll D6. And because it says reanimates D3, I think you ignore it. However, I don't think that is the intent. And I think over time, we're going to see that if you use this on a squad of Necron warriors, you probably are going to need the D3 plus. It's probably going to be the D3 plus 1 with a character in there instead of just having another D6. But I mean, it's Necron warriors. Not really sure. Rules is written. I think I do really kind of feel like you might ignore that D3. I don't know, guys. Tell me what you think down in the comment section on that one. Protocol of the Vengeful Stars. Use it in your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has resolved its attack. One Necron unit from your army that had 1 or more of its models destroyed as a result of the unit's attack, and then your unit can shoot as if it were the shooting phase, but it must target the enemy that just shot at it, so you get 1 command point, return fire. And in addition, if a Necron character is leading your unit until the end of the phase, ranged weapons have ignore cover ability. So suddenly you can take a gun that might have been going into cover and having trouble and turns around and now it gains ignore cover and it shoots out of sequence. I mean, for 1 command point, that's great. That's one that is going to be kind of, that is almost a strat that says every turn I'm going to spend my 1 turn command point that I get in your turn on this stratagem. It's just which unit's going to return fire, which unit's going to shoot back. And then it makes your opponent go, well, I don't know if I want to shoot at them. Awesome, cool. Now I'm not losing these guys because you don't want them to shoot back at you. That one's tasty. That one's a tasty, tasty strat. And finally, for the stratagems, we have Protocol of the Sudden Storm. So this is in your movement phase. You select a Necron unit until the end of the turn. Range weapons in this unit have the assault keyword, And if there's a Necron character in there, you can re-roll the advanced roll. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. It may not be one that you use every single game. It may be one that kind of sits there in in obscurity for a bit because you may not need to advance to move on to these, and you may need that command point on one of the other strats like Vengeful Stars or the shooting or combat strat, depending on how the game is going. So I don't think you're necessarily always going to have a command point to be able to throw into this to do that, but it's nice to know it's there. That's one of those that it's like, hopefully you don't have to use it, but it's nice to know it's there. All right, last for this video is going to be the enhancements. So first of all, we have the tried and true, the staple of relics of war gear in the Necron army, the Veil of Darkness. And this does exactly what you could expect it does from any other edition. Once per game, the Necron character takes the unit that he's leading, picks it up, puts it into reinforcements, and then the movement phase of that turn's reinforcement, you put it back down anywhere 9 inches away from the enemy model, horizontally specifically. It's a beautiful relic. I don't think that I think it's still kind of an auto include. I think that's kind of one of those things, like you have, when you're playing the Necrons, and one thing that I noticed in 9th edition, and I think we all did, is Necron, when you play a game against somebody, the first question that your opponent usually asks you competitively is, where is your veil? Show me which model has the Veil of Darkness. It's a very important thing. And it's all over the place. And we didn't have really that good of relics. So, I mean, Gauntlet of Conflagration was cool, but Veil of Darkness, still just as good. Sovereign Coronal. Okay, so it's an aura. You put on a Necron model. While a friendly Necron unit is within 6 inches of the bearer, it counts as being led by a character. And there's a designer note for what this means. This means that the unit with range and aura abilities will benefit from the Command Protocol's ability and will count as containing a character for the purpose of Awakened Dynasty stratagems. So what this does is you put it on a character so you don't have to put more characters into units, and then other units that are within 6 inches, just within, not wholly, because otherwise it'd be garbage. If it was wholly, it would be terrible. But as long as you're within 6 inches of them, that unit counts as having the character. So they get the +1 to hit for having the character. And then any of the stratagems that you use, the character buff, as it states, you're going to get that as well too. Not bad. That is one that it just depends on your build. I definitely can see that having some play if you don't have as many characters and you want to make sure you get those buffs. I could see that having play. I could see that being good. Me personally, I'm going to have probably a lot of characters, so that may not be a enhancement I take, but it is a good enhancement. It's a good enhancement for a different style or list build that you can do out of these data sheets. Hypermaterial Ablator. Necron models only. While this bearer is leading a unit, models in that unit have the stealth ability. In addition, each time a ranged attack targets the bearer's unit, if the attacker is not within 12 inches of the model, the bearer has the benefit of cover. So first of all, stealth. Second of all, if the attacker is not within 12, the models have cover. I'm looking at this and thinking Locust Lord, Destroyers. Locust Destroyers. Crit 5 up, lethal hits, putting down the shots to be able to have the lethal hits off the Destroyers and have these defensive abilities from afar. These guys might be able to turn into a short-range street sweeper, where they are just driving down these roads, just cleaning up the trash, a very leaf blower-esque style. So, that's one of that one I really like. Means I got to figure out how to say the second part of it, because I'm going to probably use that on a Locust Lord Resurrection Orb onto a squad of Locust, the 6 guys. That actually has some value behind getting some guys back in there, especially if I'm able to put up some defense from units that can shoot me from further away, while these guys are just cleaning a corridor down. And last but certainly not least, some triple weave models, Necron models only. Bearer has a 4-up, feel no pain. So there's some talk right now, because technically We've seen nothing that says you can't. A transcendent Catan is a character that can take an enhancement. And because it says if you're using the Awakened Dynasty detachment rules, you can also use these Awakened Dynasty enhancements. So this can go on the Necrons model. And yeah, so there's people floating around with that. I'm curious to see. I think that the big talk right now has been about the Transcendent Catan, and him being able to take this because of the it is a Necron, does have all the Necrons, does have all the keywords. So right now it looks like your Transcendent Catan can get a 4-up, feel no pain. Pretty vicious. That's pretty vicious if that sticks and if that's true, and unless that gets changed up. Right now that's pretty hefty. And the Transcendent's kind of expensive to then throw this on there. Is that going to really be enough to keep it alive? Is it worth that type of value? We're gonna have to wait and see on that. I don't think I'll initially go into that route because I want to go with more of the metal bodies in that sense. So I'm probably not going to do that one. But for me, the two that I'm looking at right now are Veil of Darkness and Hypermaterial. Those two are going to be the initial staples for my builds as I'm trying to figure out how I want to play Necrons competitively in a competitive for some tournaments and stuff like that. All right, guys. So we're wrapping this up right now. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and comment down below. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that the Transcendent Catan is going to maintain being able to get a 4-up, feel no pain? Do you see any other combos with the stratagems with certain units that may be completely brutal because of the characters that they're with and some of the weapons and the weapon abilities they have as we start moving forward and touching base on all these other units? Stay with me. We still got characters, vehicles, and all the infantry to cover, and I'll be getting those videos out as fast as I can. Thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.